as what I've already said, it's Advent time. And not just that Advent started today, you've probably found it impossible to avoid all the preparations for Christmas. But when do you begin your preparations? Are you one of those early birds who like to get things in really early? I was out running before Halloween and passed a garden with Christmas decorations in today. But it's better than the Halloween ones, you must admit. So, are you like that, or are you the very last minute, the people who are regularly go out on Christmas Eve to do their Christmas shopping? Hopefully you're somewhere in between, so. But how do you prepare? What do you have to prepare? Presents, decorations, organising the family get-togethers, going to parties, writing and sending Christmas cards, or, as I've been doing this last week, writing sermons, I'm sure. Others will be doing that as well over the next few weeks. And why do you prepare? Do you prepare? Well, just because it's what you do. It's something you've always done. And it just wouldn't seem right without it. Or for some people, I think it's an excuse for overindulgence. You know, overindulge, overspend, get overtired, over everything, I think. And some say, well, Christmas is just for children, isn't it? But then what about the children? They also overdo it. They become overstressed, overstimulated, overtired, and by the time Christmas itself comes, can be not always very nice to be around. You're just thankful they've got presents that they can occupy themselves with. It all seems an awful lot, the preparations for Christmas. But these outward trappings are the most that many people see. And they really think about anything else, so hopefully for us here that's something different. When we see the lights, the trees, the giving of the presents, all the celebrations, it should, instead of being ends in themselves, it should draw us to the reason we have these things. A reason that's hidden to very many. But it's not hard to find if we want to find it. Because it's all about God's gift to humanity. God's gift to humanity is himself. People know that there's something about a baby in a manger. They see the crib scenes, they see a baby in a manger. They know this baby was called Jesus. But they rarely go beyond that. They know there's something about it. But the real meaning of Jesus coming, of being in that manger, is hidden to very many. But we prepare in a shorter or longer time. God's preparations have been right from the beginning. Right from the beginning of creation. Because God knew that his perfect creation wouldn't remain so because of the way he made his people. We're only 2 chapters into the Bible, well, we're on to the 3rd one, when we realise there's a rebellion against God and punishment because Adam and Eve disobeyed him. Broke one specific thing that God said don't do. And what did they do? They went and did it. And they broke that special relationship they'd had with God. And through the Bible, there are lots of chapters that tell us God's instructions to try and keep some sort of relationship going. You might find it hard work ploughing through Exodus and Leviticus, for instance. But if you look at it in the bigger picture, you realise this is God foreshadowing what was to happen. There were lots of sacrifices. The people had to do these sacrifices to come back to put themselves right with God. And it was only when they did that they could remain in the in the nation and the people. But they were something that had to be repeated and repeated. There was no permanent solution, there was no permanent hope. It was only if they did the right things that they could stay with God. But God had a permanent solution in mind. And that's what the whole of the Old Testament really is leading to. So we read through that and we see these temporary things and we see how they relate to what we know, looking with the benefit of hindsight, that it's such a good thing, isn't it? But we have to remember we do have that advantage. And there are lots of the prophets' prophecy, telling what's going to happen. The prophets were basically telling the people God's plan. And there were lots of pointers to what would happen. And these were, the last prophecies were about 400 years before Jesus was born. So God's time scale is not like ours, is it? His preparation, even in a way when he finished his preparation of it coming, was a long time before. But I'm going to read one of these prophecies from Isaiah, who probably has the most references to what God's plan was. And you'll know these, you've already sung them and listened to them. And these words follow on from a chapter that tells of the problems that the people were in, of the darkness they were living in, war and whatever else, war especially, because that's referenced here. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned. Every warrior's boot used in battle and every garment rolled in blood were destined for the burning, will be fuel for the fire. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. We often read verse 2 about the people walking in darkness, and the ones about the baby being born, sometimes ones in between. But it's important to put it in the context of verse 5, every warrior's boot used in battle, etc., because that shows us the darkness that this light was coming to dispel. So our world seems very dark. You don't have to go very far to find that out. But it's really nothing new. If you look back 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, however many years back you can remember, there was darkness in the world. We read the history books, there was darkness in the world. We read the Bible, there was darkness in the world. It's been there throughout history because of Adam and Eve's disobedience to God. And people have continue to turn against God. And God had always said, if you don't obey me, this is what has happened. It's like, if you've got children and you say, this is what you're to do, and if you don't, you'll be sent to your room or you won't get any sweets. Actions have consequences, and God has been telling us that throughout history. But we have a promise that breaks these actions and consequences. And it's all about light coming into the world. In just about every situation, light is essential to life. There are a few weird creatures that live in caves and never see light, but generally light is needed just to live. But we also need light to guide us, to direct us. If you go out in the dark, it's a good idea to take a torch with you. And also, if you want to hide, where do you go? In a dark place. And light can reveal it. Playing hide and seek in the dark, the people seeking, if there's any sense, will take a torch and they'll soon find the person hiding. So light is needed for life, to guide us, to direct us, to reveal what's hidden in the darkness. And light is much more powerful than darkness. Just think of going to the New Testament now, first chapter of John, where he says, the light has come into the world and the darkness has not overcome it. Darkness cannot overcome light. Light will always shine. Might be tiny, tiny speck, but light will shine, like the stars. And here in Isaiah, he's saying, the light has come, or speaking as it is to come. And apparently the word that shone is flash. It's not just gradually coming, it's suddenly coming, which, when a baby, was fairly sudden when a baby comes. And it came for people to see. The light has come for people to see. Came in the form of a baby, weak and helpless. And you think, how can such a thing as a weak, helpless baby be a light that makes any difference to the world at all? As I said, even a small light can make a difference. And the rest of this passage goes on in greater detail to describe how the baby can dispel the darkness. But before we go into that, just to show that there are more prophecies in the Old Testament about the coming of Jesus. Jumped over too soon. A lot of them are in Isaiah. In chapter 7, we read a virgin will have a child and he will be called Emmanuel. Emmanuel means God with us. And that was one of the names given to Jesus before he was born, as we read in Matthew. In chapter 11, we hear about a child coming from the line of David, his inheritance, and that again, when we read in Matthew, who particularly links these things together, we read how Jesus was part of the family of David. And then in a different prophecy, Micah, we read about the birthplace of the promised one, that it would be in Bethlehem. So these are just some, there's just 3 more. And there's also plenty about the mission of this one who would come. And so the verses we're looking at are part of a much bigger picture. And so just briefly look at the descriptions of them, which should make it much clearer. I suppose I could have had pictures to illustrate them, but I didn't. So, first of all, a king. It doesn't actually say, give him the title of king, but he's to be a ruler. The government will be on his shoulders. So, a ruler, a king. In those days, rulers usually meant kings. And he will carry the weight of government on his shoulders. Because when we use that phrase, taking it on your shoulders, it's like taking on a weight and a responsibility of something that's not going to be easy. And I think in the coronation ceremony when King Charles was crowned, I think they used a sword on his shoulders. There's something with his shoulders. I can't quite remember what. I didn't actually watch it, but it's taking on responsibility and weight, the government on his shoulders. But it's not like any earthly government or kingship that will last a few years, or even a dynasty that will last maybe a couple of centuries or more. The ruler that Jesus is will be forever. His kingdom will have no end, as it says. So it says that, the baby's coming, but it's the coming of God's kingdom. The kingdom that is for eternity. So as we prepare for Christmas, we're preparing for the coming of Christ, coming of Jesus, we're preparing for eternity. And the rule, any human rule, is flawed, because people are flawed, as we've already seen. But God's kingdom, the ruler, Jesus, is not flawed. The kingship, the rule will be entirely righteous and just. The sort of kingdom we would like on earth, but we know it's never going to be. But that's what we have with God's rule. And then, the most one that actually is mentioned by name, he's the wonderful counsellor, or this could be translated as wonderful counsellor, as two separate things. But I think they go together, because he is wonderful, and as a counsellor, he's wonderful, and his counsel is wonderful. So he's a wonderful counsellor. He's too wonderful for comprehension, as the song knows. We'll never be able to understand how wonderful he is, how great he is, and how full of wisdom he is. That's how he can be a wonderful counsellor, because he has all the wisdom that we lack. In our complex world, wise counsel is needed and respected. And there are many people who will give wise counsel to certain varying degrees. But however wise it is, however good it is, it will never compare with the wisdom, the counsel of God. Because God knows the world completely. Because God made each one of us. He knows each one of us far better than we know ourselves. So any counsel he gives us is going to be the very best that we could ever have. And he's a mighty God. Just a reminder, this baby is not just a human baby. This baby is God. The mighty, all-powerful God. And that's one of the things that's really hidden in Christmas, is that Jesus is God.
Amen.
And because he is God, well, just think of what he can do, who he is. Mighty, powerful, all-knowing, all-loving. He can do the impossible. Can always be relied on. We could go on. It just, the centre, I had 5 points, and this is third. The centre, he is the mighty God. And because he is, we can put all our trust in him. We can rest in him for now, for the rest of our lives, and for eternity. And then number 4, the everlasting Father. Born a human, but also divine, also eternal. He was there in creation, and he will be there at the end of time. And throughout all this, he is the same. Remember the old chorus, yesterday, today, forever, Jesus is the same. It might have been a chorus we sang as children, but it's still true. Jesus is the same. He always is. And he will never change his nature, because he is God. He is the Father. Will not only go on forever, which is an amazing thought, but he's perfect. He's the perfect Father because he made us. As I said before, he cares for us, he guides us, he protects us. But he doesn't force us to do things. He's given us freedom to make our own decisions. Though he gives us warnings of what will happen if we do certain things. And that's what a perfect Father does. No human father is actually perfect. Some are better than others. And they all want to do the best they want the best for their children. And for people to grow in maturity and strength, they need to be able to make decisions, make mistakes, and hopefully learn from them. And that's what God lets us do. We make our mistakes, but we can come to him, and once we realise it, we can come back to him and realise that he will forgive it and set us back on the right track. So he's our perfect Father who lives forever. And the final title given is Prince of Peace. Peace is something much lacking in the world today. And we can often wonder where God is in these situations when we hear of all the wars and the violence on a smaller scale between individuals, and also there's so many people who don't have peace of mind because of what's happening. We wonder where God is in these situations. But God's peace isn't the same as the world's peace. And Jesus speaks about that in John's Gospel. He records quite a bit about his peace being different. It's a much more profound peace that is within us. It's not just an absence of conflict. It's a peace even if there is conflict. It's a peace that comes from being forgiven and being in the right relationship with God. It's a peace that knowing that when we trust him, we are secure for now and for eternity. When we stop trying to fight the battles of the world and remember that they are God's battles and we can rest in him, and then we will find peace, and we will also see the people around us begin to find a measure of peace. So this baby who was promised, this baby who is coming we're preparing for, who we know now is Jesus, he fulfills these promises. Jesus is the King, a wonderful Counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. He is God's gift to us and God's gift to a broken world. He is the light that comes to shine in the darkness and bring hope for the future. Jesus can do it because Jesus is God, and God can do the impossible. And he comes to show us the way to his kingdom. His birth was the beginning of the fulfillment of God's plan to put us right with God. In living among us, he gave us a better idea of God's nature, and by dying on the cross as he did, he showed that sacrifice that was necessary completed the work. The sacrifices in the Old Testament were a foretaste of this, but Jesus' sacrifice, because of who he is, did everything that was needed to give access to God's kingdom. And it doesn't have to be repeated again and again and again. It's a gift. And a gift is only of any use if we receive it. You hear people being given gifts and, oh, I don't know that. You're not really receiving it. But God's gift is there for us to take or not. He doesn't force it on us. But if we do receive it, it's a gift that lasts forever. So in our preparations over the next few weeks, make sure you don't miss the message of Christmas. Don't hide it away among all the trappings that we have. Prepare for his coming. Celebrate it with joy. And make sure that the preparation doesn't stop with Christmas Day, because that's just the start. We've got the coming of his kingdom in full glory to look forward to. The kingdom that, we know his kingdom is going to reign but it will be seen to reign, and all darkness will be finally done away with when he comes the second time. So don't miss the message of God in that manger, God among us, Emmanuel. Celebrate God with us this Christmas time.
Amen.
Amen.